My name is Adrian Esposito, and I am a filmmaker. I also have Asperger's syndrome, a disability on the autism spectrum. I was educated almost exclusively in the special education school system in New York State. One of the things I like to do is imagine what it would have been like for me if I had been born earlier, say 1944. By going back in time, I will explore the conditions for the developmentally disabled in those times. My story will be told through the experiences of people with developmental disabilities who lived then. Gradually, we will wind up in the present and meet people with developmental disabilities who have dreams, talents, and great abilities. Institutions like New York City's Willowbrook State School were created with good intentions in mind. Their purpose was to educate and provide vocational skills training for those who could not learn in the regular school system. Some of the trades taught were farming, janitorial, and domestic work. Some residents did work outside the institutions.
The first institution was built right here in Syracuse, New York. It was called the Asylum for Idiots back in 1854. And we were the first institution built in the entire nation, to be honest with you. And we had other institutions develop across New York State as a result of our institution, such as Newark, Craig Colony, as well as Rome Developmental Center, Rome State School as it was known then. So there was many different institutions that were a result of Syracuse. But ours was the first one in the entire United States. And it was built for the education of children with mental retardation, and it was at taxpayers' expense. Probably in 1854, things weren't so bad because they were taking people in and trying to assist people who were from all walks of life, whether they were mentally retarded or not, that were having a hard time in life. And I think there was a lot of good programs going on because we have evidence of there being workshops where people were being taught skills such as weaving, and also ladies being taught how to iron properly so they could go into people's homes and be what were called domestics or colony girls, where they would make a living with the family and being paid by the family for the services they provided. And so there was a lot of different skills, and plus there was a farm in Syracuse. We had several farms that were going and other institutions as well to help support the institution. So there were many things that came about from that. And so in the beginning, I think things were pretty good, but as time went on, the institution started to get very overcrowded. And when things get overcrowded, nothing good comes from it. And the more people you have, it means you have to have enough staff available to help support them. And unfortunately, in a lot of the institutions, they didn't have the staff. So the overcrowded conditions really caused it to be very deplorable, and a lot of abuse and things occurred as a result of that.
In 1959, there were 22,182 persons with developmental disabilities living in institutions in New York State. By 1972, there were 26,000 people with developmental disabilities living in institutions in New York State.
When I was younger, I was because of circumstances back in the 60s, I was forced to live in 3 New York State institutions. And one of them was in New York City. The other one was in Rome. And then the last one was here in Syracuse. first of all, my mom and dad didn't have the support to keep me at home with my other siblings. Because back in the 60s, the parents didn't have the supports that they do today to keep their children at home, as far as the funding or the accessibility to keep their children at home. And because of that, I was signed over to the state. When I basically went into the institution, I knew that I had to grow from a 5-year-old boy into a man in a hurry. And that meant just trying to stay alive. The thing that I remember the most is when I came in to the developmental centers, I can remember going down these dark and dingy hallways. No pictures on the wall, nothing. I mean, you could smell, you couldn't see it, but you could smell the urine and the feces on the furniture, and just some of the people that were there who were nonverbal, they laid on mats all day long, and mostly like my parents, their parents were instructed to put them in a state institution too, because much like mine, they told the parents that we were never going to amount to anything.
Oh God, I remember going to Warburg when I was three years old. And I remember my aunt and my mom giving me away to strange people, white uniforms, and nursing the cat.
What were the conditions in general there, Bernard?
Horrible. It depends on the building you live in. If you can walk, talk, take care of yourself, they were clean. But if you had to be fed, dressed out, changed, it was horrible. They used to take the cookies and candy, stick it in a bag, and throw it in the middle of the floor, and you see these kids grabbing it like animals. And as I look back on that, I wonder, how can we do this to another human being? I get so angry sometimes because I felt I could do more, but at the same time, I couldn't do more because I did not have the resources and the support to do what I wanted to do. And I was just a young kid at that time.
Right.
It was horrible because not only did we have to live on these units with at least 20 people at a time that were living there, you took, for example, you took showers together in groups. You went to the bathroom in groups. You ate at a certain time, and a lot of times the people that I had lived with didn't always get the proper nutrition. And I could just remember the horror stories and just see people and I'm going to be honest with you, I've actually seen people die of starvation. I've seen people die of drug overdose. So to me, institutionalization, I mean, living in an institution was not fun. For all intents and purposes, it wasn't fun. Because we didn't have the right or maybe the knowledge in some ways to even know that we could advocate for our rights. Because it was always said that the system knew better than we did what we needed for our lives. And I think in a lot of ways, even though there were some good people in the institutions that tried to do good things, unfortunately, the bad people overrode the good people, and then the good people got burned out. I suffered a lot of abuse myself, and I also seen other people get abused. For example, most of the people I lived with were nonverbal, so I was the only verbal one in this one building, and when I saw the abuse, I just couldn't take it anymore, and I just decided that I had to do something about it. And when I would go and speak to the administration about not only the hard conditions, but also the abuse that we suffered, I oftentimes would get punished because, you know, the staff didn't want me to be letting people know what was really going on. And to be honest with you, when I went into the institutions, I was walking. And as you see now, I'm not. And the reason for that is because I've always had cerebral palsy, so that wasn't the issue. But the issue was when I started advocating for people, they didn't like it, so that's where the abuse came in. I got, for example, when I was in Rome, I got hit in the back with a lead pipe, which crushed my spine. So therefore, I couldn't stand up anymore. And it didn't do me no good to talk to my parents about it because, for one thing, they couldn't do anything about it because once you're a ward of the state, your parents lose all rights to you. At least back in the 60s, early 70s, and sometimes 80s. And I didn't want to put any more heartache on them than they already had.
How did the staff treat you and the other residents?
We had good people, we had bad people. I used to get the helping out a lot with sticks and bells. And I got my head kicked into the wall. Got beaten with extension cords. And they used to hire anybody from the street, and they get to the jail 4 weeks of crash course on marijuana. And they stick it in the wall to take care of these people. I saw a lot of abuse go on at Woolpur.
How much more can he take? He can't speak to himself. I have to talk for him.
I see staff beat the individual with sticks, wet towels. They used to punch him in the face. They did everything, and they got away with it. They really should. They took shortcuts, and they used to take a pill with the same pill that they used to scrub the floors with. They bathed the individual with, and they used the same rag on everybody to wash them down. So that's disgusting.
And was there a lot of illness there because of
A lot of, yeah, there was a lot of diseases like scabies and chickenpox you name it.
People know about the medical atrocities committed by Dr. Joseph Mengele during World War II in Nazi Germany. But what few people know of are the medical atrocities committed by American scientists and doctors in institutions that cared for the mentally challenged in the 1950s and 1960s. For example, no one was admitted to Willowbrook State School after 1964 unless the parents signed a release allowing medical experimentation. They were told that their child would get better care. In fact, they were fed extracts of feces from individuals infected with hepatitis. The idea was that they would get hepatitis anyways, as the illness was rampant at Willowbrook and other institutions.
I remember, I forgot the doctor name, Dr. Kruger. He used to, I have a friend, I wish you could interview her. The only way she could get her daughter into Willowbrook, she had to be part of the hepatitis program. And they would inject hepatitis through in her.
So the parents that signed,
The parents, a lot of parents did not know what was going on until their kids died and they got the death certificate. And on the death certificate, they found hepatitis and they were shocked. Parents never knew what was going on behind closed doors. They always thought everything was okay. And I was too scared to tell anybody because there was nobody there to protect me.
In 1972, a news reporter, Geraldo Rivera, investigated reports of abuse at Willowbrook. These hit New York TV viewers like a bombshell and led to lawsuits filed by parents. Eventually, the state passed a Willowbrook consent decree which changed the way the state treated the developmentally disabled forever.
I have a friend who was a doctor in Willowbrook, and a good friend of mine. He got fired and called Geraldo, and we all met up. Before he got fired, we organized the parents and built this big parent organization, and that's how all of this came out.
What were your feelings during this event? Were you at all frightened at this?
Oh, I wasn't frightened. I was scared, but I had to do what I had to do to get changes. But I did not want them to change Willowbrook to make it better, because the more you make it better, the more you make it worse. Geraldo and the doctor knew one another before coming to Willowbrook. And the doctor started meeting with parents one by one at his family. Nobody knew about it. And then the parents started growing and grown and grown. And the administration got a hold of it and fired the doctor. And that's how Willowbrook, that's how Geraldo got onto the ground of Willowbrook. He did not give his key back to the administration. He kept it and he snuck Geraldo behind in the back woods of Willowbrook. He interviewed it, snuck me off the ground, interviewed it, and I told him what was going on. We had to tell him where to go and meet with the parents. I was giving out all the information because I've been there for 17, 18 years, and I knew the ins and outs of Willowbrook.
So you told Geraldo where to go?
Yes, we told him where to go, how to get there, everything. Yeah. I got out of there in time before there were any repercussions.
Okay, so what happened? You let Geraldo in and then they actually let you out of Willowbrook?
They have a choice.
Oh, I didn't, okay.
They did not have a choice.
And where did you?
They want me to get the hell out of there quick. It was not safe for me to stay there anymore.
Yeah.
That's what we thought, that the staff would have.
A couple of staff got killed, and they never found the bodies at Willowbrook. It was not that publicized.
Staff got killed. Were these staff that were like on your side?
Yeah, I moved out and I moved in with a person that I grew up with in Willowbrook. That didn't work out because he wanted me to become a born-again Christian and all that. And that did not fit my needs at all. I moved out. Here I am.
They didn't offer you any kind of like
No.
assistance of, social worker or
No,
nothing?
I didn't want.
Discharged you and
Yeah.
that's it?
They wanted to get rid of me.
What motivated you to start the Self-Advocacy Association?
Well, the civil rights movement back in the 60s, there was always movement for African American people. The women's movement, the gay movement. So I decided, why not people with disabilities? So I started the statewide self-advocacy organization to help people empower themselves. But we're not there yet. We're still controlling people with disabilities. So they're not there yet.
30 years ago, parents became really unhappy with the types of services and supports that their individuals were receiving in institutional settings. As a matter of fact, they weren't receiving any supports and services in institutional settings. So parents and Geraldo Rivera went down to Willowbrook and shed a light on what was probably one of the worst human injustices in this country, and it was happening all over the country, and brought some light and media attention, and the response to that was so tremendous because of parent advocacy, because of the media and the broader advocacy community. All of that drove the state, New York State, to move in a different direction. There was a huge lawsuit, which ended up to be the Willowbrook Consent Decree that gave rights, human dignity, and respect to people with disabilities, and that was really the beginning of the journey. So today, in terms of how OMRDD views its consumers and family input, they view it, and we view it, and I view it as really important. I mean, like I said, this is an agency that was born out of advocacy, and we are who we are because families fought, parents fought, siblings fought, individuals fought for rights. So the system is what it is because it's listened to the voices of parents and families and self-advocates and other people interested in just helping people with developmental disabilities live rights. So live richer lives. So the view of consumers and people who want to provide input is really high, and we will only go forward listening to those voices. The vision for supports and services for people with developmental disabilities continues to be one that envisions people living with supports and services and included in communities all around New York State. Having a system that promotes and relies on individualized and person-centered services is the dream of everyone. Everybody wants to be an individual. Everybody deserves to be an individual. So the vision is that this is a system that supports individualized choice, that helps people in the 4 outcomes that we focused on, that is living in a home of the choice in a community, having good health, having meaningful relationships, and participating in meaningful activities, be it going to work, going to volunteer, or just spending quality time with people that you love. So those 4 outcomes really are the foundation of the vision that we see for people with developmental disabilities, and the future, from my perspective, looks wonderful.
That was the past, and this is now. Attitudes, programs, and outcomes have changed for us. Colvin Percy is a young child with Down syndrome. 40 years ago, he probably would have been one of those youngsters placed in an institution, but today he thrives. He lives with his parents, who are loving advocates for him.
When Colvin was born, our midwife had moved to a hospital, and so Cole was born in a hospital. And when he was born, there was this feeling in the room after they looked at him that something was wrong. Although, of course, you know, when you give birth, you're a little out of it, so I didn't know exactly what was going on. I just knew there was a lot of hubbub. There's a lot of people moving around and nobody's really talking, and just the energy in the room felt bad. And so I asked what was going on, and nobody would really tell me anything about what was going on. Yeah. And so finally they said that Cole has some soft signs of Down syndrome. And so I asked what that meant. They explained what soft signs were. But they wouldn't say yes, they wouldn't say no, and so finally I said, just give me a percentage he does have Down syndrome, a percentage he doesn't, and they said, we think it's 80% he has Down syndrome.
That he had Down syndrome.
Well, then they moved us from that room,
Yeah.
and they moved us all the way to the end of the hall in this room, away from everyone, and the mood was just very dark and somber, and I called my parents, and they came up to visit, and I was angry that we weren't celebrating like we did for Jake's birth. So I asked my parents to please go get us champagne. And they went and got us champagne and snuck it back in the hospital, and we drank it out of those little plastic
cups
hospital cups
to celebrate Cole's birth.
to celebrate Cole's birth. And I was angry for months afterward that they had said my child wasn't perfect, because in my eyes, Cole was perfect just the way he was with Down syndrome. So that took me a while to get over. I'm gonna get teary.
It's okay.
When Cole was born, all I wanted was for him to have love in his life. And so in my mind at that time, I thought somehow he was gonna have less love in his life. Just watching Cole progress, you know, Cole, to me, Cole personifies love. He is welcoming and open to everyone. He touches everyone. He walks into Jake's karate, you know, and high fives everyone down the line as we're walking around to the chairs. Everybody knows him there. He's just very giving and loving. I just want him to have all the different types of love that we have. You know, friendship love, family love, romantic love. I want him to be able to give and receive love. I want him to do something meaningful with his life. Whatever he decides is meaningful, I want him to be able to participate in that.
Yeah.
I just want him to be happy. The same dreams I have for Jacob, but for Cole, we need to work harder to get there in terms of building those friendships, you know, making sure that we have a social network that we're involved with kids like him and kids without disabilities. The school things are more of a struggle with Cole to make sure that he gets a good expectation. I think people have lower expectations because he has Down syndrome.
Well, and his goals that he reaches, they're smaller than Jacob's, but they're that much more fantastic when he reaches them, you know? I mean, these kids are brought into our families for a reason. This kid has taught my family, her family, so many different lessons about life and perspective and what's important, what's not important.
So I asked Jake today what his dreams for Cole were, and he said that he wanted him to have a house and a job so that he could come visit him, which is sweet. Those two boys are very, very bonded. They really are. I always, when Cole was born, talked about Cole being our baby. He's our baby, and I don't want Jake to ever feel like he has to take care of Cole, but he just instinctually takes care of him.
He's his protector for sure.
So what are your dreams for your brother?
I just want him to be happy.
We heard Bernard Carabello and Michael Kennedy talk about people languishing in institutions with little or no activities. Today, people have choices. They can participate in innovative rehabilitation programs or design their own activities through the Self-Determination Program. I receive my programming through the Self-Determination Program, and my activities involve filmmaking. I was impressed with a unique program in the arts for adults with disabilities at Cobblestone Arts Center. This is an integrated rehabilitation program funded by the DDSO. Here, people with disabilities can express themselves through music, art, dance, and drama. Also available are classes in computer studies and public speaking. Other activities include horseback riding, hiking, fishing, horticulture, and culinary studies.
The activities that are typically done at our day program are we have dancers that dance from their wheelchairs, and they are partnered with other students here at the center. We have regular dance classes, and the people that are our sit-down dancers also participate in ballet and yoga, conditioning classes. We do ballroom classes. The music classes involve the students with all kinds of instruments, learning all of the instruments of the orchestra. learning about great musicians and great artists, from the classical artists to contemporary. They vocalize, they do their singing. Also, the visual arts, we do drawing and painting and sculpture. They learn about great artists like Van Gogh and Picasso. We try to imitate their styles. We have computer study here, so students are learning how to create art on the computer. They're learning to use email. They're collecting information about all their classes, whether it's a choreographer like Bob Fosse, or they're learning about Mozart. They gather information with the teachers to educate them in all of the art forms. At the end of every 2 months, we have a performance for the community. And every 2 months, we change our curriculum base. So one session, it might be Renaissance art and music. Another session may be about Guys and Dolls and doing a theater production. We're also including other agencies into our programming so that they can come and enjoy what our students enjoy, and we can collaborate with them. The philosophy of our teachers here is that we cannot fail our students. If a student needs to drum while they're laying on the floor, then we drum while we're on the floor. So we help the student be successful in whichever curriculum or lesson plans that we're working on in a way that they're comfortable and that they can contribute. So the families and the students of many of the students here have risen to another level with their person. And one of the most important things for me to see is how valuable they feel when they're here.
While at Cobblestone Arts Center, I met Eric and Christine. They both attend Cobblestone and want to have careers in the arts. They are also in love and have decided to have a committed relationship. Eventually, they would like to live together.
I entered a contest for a free commitment ceremony, and I wrote a letter for that contest, and as I said about I won the contest, and as I said, I called Christine's dad if I can propose to her, but we did. It's just like as a ready to me. And plus, it really was a beautiful day to have it. For me, I love it here because I want to be as a singer and a dancer, and so is that here I am Capstone.
I love it here. I like to sing, act, and dance and everything else. And I'd like to be a movie star someday.
Want to kiss with me or not? No. Okay, Mom, let's kiss together.
Okay, good.
Eric already has an apartment for them. This is downstairs in his parents' home. Eric's parents, the Neators, have adopted 3 special needs children. They provide a loving and caring home and are good advocates for their children. So this is like the room you want to be in, huh?
Yeah, but it's a you, yes.
Recently, I ran into Ingrid Krogstad. I have known Ingrid since grade school. In fact, she was the only girl that used to show up at many of my birthday parties. She now lives in a very nice group home run by Continuing Developmental Services. She seems happy there, and I am happy for her. Ingrid is a talented pianist. Please tell me what your name is and what the name of the group home is.
My name is Ingrid Ruth Croxted. The name of our group home is CDS. I like living here a lot. I like making dinners and doing my laundry on Fridays and making sure that all of the rooms are neat and tidy for tours. I live with 6 other girls, 2 on this top floor and 3 on the bottom floor. And I don't have anything that I don't like about this house. I like it a lot.
Sarah Nettleton is in the self-determination program through the DDSO. She has designed her own program. She is a published poet.
My name is Sarah Nettleton. I graduated in 2006 from BOCES No. 1 Creekside program at Pittsford Mendon High School. I have a CSS self-determination plan. I volunteer at the Southeast YMCA with the Silver Sneakers exercise class and also take jewelry making classes. I work out at the Y and I am doing programs at Writers and Books. I want to get a GED so I can take college writing classes for credit. I love having a CSS self-determination plan. I get to do what I want to do, not what everyone in the day program does. CSS self-determination is a great program if you are up for the work. I have Cree-Duchat syndrome, also known as 5p deletion syndrome. I am missing part of the short arm of the number 5 chromosomes. FC is an alternative augmentative communication method which involves providing support and pullback while typing one letter at a time. Here is one of my poems, My Feelings. You are always saying bad things about me when I am standing right in front of you. Because you say bad things about me, no one likes me. I try hard, but you don't care. You think because I can't talk with my voice that I am stupid. I can think, I can feel, I can learn. I just have a body that doesn't work right. You can't see my abilities. You only see my disabilities. You should learn to treat people with disabilities with dignity and respect. Dignity and respect. Dignity and respect.
Dario Castaldi is also in the self-determination program with the DDSO. His goal is to become a self-employed photographer. He is very talented.
When I was born, I had a high forceps delivery, which caused me to have a brain injury. And so I've had my disability all my life, and been through been in BOCES, special education, all my life. Well, when I was young, my mom was told by the doctors that I should be put in an institution. Fortunately, with her support, she said no. And if that happened, things could have gone very differently. And it's been a real long kind of process. We had a lot of lawsuits with various, especially with my education, because at the time BOCES wasn't around. It was one of the few. There wasn't a lot of services and supports. How I actually got into photography was. I was taking a scuba diving class, and I was kind of like trying to decide if maybe I could find a way to combine my interest in scuba diving with like video, underwater video or something. So then my dive master suggested I take a photography class, and well, it kind of just kind of spiraled into photography. My dream was to work in film and photography, and my dream was to go back to school or to get the skills to be able to work in the field, and a lot of people said that I couldn't do it. I couldn't. It wasn't the right thing for me. It was a bad vocation, and I kept persisting, and I took classes at like SUNY Brockport, and some MCC, and I just fortunately when I was working, I was able to buy some used camera equipment to kind of keep doing what I was doing. So and then fortunately then eventually, like I said, I got my chance to go to RIT. Right now, I do a lot of like photojournalistic style kind of documentary type is what I'm interested in, what I've been doing. I also do like a lot of scenic landscape. I've done some like nature photography, but the courses I've taken at RIT, I've done some like on portrait photography, which I would like to do some documentary type portrait type photography. Well, basically what I want to do after I leave RIT is I want to start my own business and be a working photographer, specializing in persons with disabilities and photographing children with special needs.
One of the most successful people I know who also has Asperger's syndrome like me is Mark Willis. Mr. Willis found out that he had Asperger's syndrome only when his own son was diagnosed with it. As you hear his story, you will realize that he had symptoms since childhood. Asperger's syndrome became recognized clinically as a diagnosis only in 1994, so it is understandable that clinicians were confused by his symptoms. Nevertheless, he spent most of his childhood in an institution called Hillside Children's Center. He succeeded through sheer determination on his part and with the help of his loving wife, Colleen. Through her, he became part of a huge, extended, loving family. There is much to be said about the healing effects of marriage and family life for anyone, and especially for someone with a disability.
Well, my father, he decided to have a drinking spree and to go in the house and destroy and throw my mother around, and we had the state police, or actually with the city police, had a break of a fight between him and my brother, and I was put in a home under Child Protective Services. And I was put in Hillside Children's Center. That's off Monroe Avenue. When I was placed in, I felt pretty betrayed. Well, a little nervous too. I really had no relatives with me for 5 years. I was by myself. It was quite interesting. Well, it was a helpful place. They have actually a lot of individuals that helped me. I had an individual named Dr. Hakey, was a psychologist. He was more old school. He understood what autism was, but he couldn't explain what it wasn't in one degree or another. He just called me his little caged rabbit. I'm actually in Hillside's records at the time being called the only caged rabbit they ever had. They had me on Thorazine for many years, for 5 years. The heaviest dose you could probably find, and even a psych ward. But then with his help, I've learned to control myself. Well, the type of education I received was your basic English, math, little science. That was my favorite. Math was my best. But I worked in the kitchen. I helped out. They helped me with learn some few skills like cleaning and maintenance. When I was there at that time, at least I had a trade. They didn't know how to teach me in any education, not as much as the normal school programs. My mind was not set for that. Well, as time went on, I worked with the program where they were, but I was so misunderstood. That was very frustrating. I would actually do a lot of walking. I would do occasional running away from there because I felt like I wasn't understood. But I've learned to control things through their specialist psychologist. I was 12 years old and they released me into a group home for a year for a transition period. And they're supposed to get you prepared for home. And they released me, but I was still a part of the state until 14 years old, until I could live at home with my mother. And then that's in that state, they release you from that, and that state says you are prepared to go, which I was never. I was never prepared. I still was a caged animal, even with medication or not. It didn't matter. The state just replaced, they just got rid of everybody just to make room. It was not much fun at all. That's like shortly after that, I was at my house and with my mother. We're living in Dewey Avenue at the time. And between the drugs and the violence and the screaming and the yelling, I just sort of got tired of it. And I ran from home and I didn't want to look back.
And you just kept going, right?
Yeah. Well, I eventually was on the streets. By when I was 16, I was eventually on the streets. Had no money, only the clothes on my back. And I was living out there for a while. That was rough. Wintertime is hard. It was really cold.
How were you able to keep warm? Did they have like sheltered places?
I didn't go to shelters. I didn't deal with people. Like I said, it's like a caged animal. People don't understand this. With autism, nobody didn't do any testing for me. I can't explain this. I can't do any direct. I just say the way I say things. Now, most people don't understand this. I'm very direct. I have to tell you that I didn't have no help. I just basically went out there. I didn't ask for money. If I could beg money for food, I begged and I got what I needed. And if I found some place that had some ventilation blowing up from the back of the buildings, I laid underneath the ventilation just like an animal. And that's the way I lived. There's no ifs, ands, and there's no bones about it. It's the way it is. It is what it is. I found a job, just kept working. Worked a second job for the longest time, saved money, bought my own cars, paid my own insurance, paid my own bills. A lot of times I would get apartments that had their gas and electric already included, so I had no extra bills. I didn't have no cell phones at the time. So I just basically worked 24/7 if I had to, just to survive for years. Well, actually, when I met my wife, she used to live next door to me. I used to clean her car off. I never knew who she was, but I said that's the woman I was going to marry one day, and I did. That's when my life changed when I met my wife. Didn't matter all I went through. It's all when I met my wife is everything. We had a $400 car and one apartment, and that was it. And that's about king of the castle. I was happy with that. It was after Marty was born. Then my wife was telling me about the American Disability Act, and then I had insurance through my wife's insurance. I got tested, and I was diagnosed with Asperger's, with autism. Because once I knew what the problem was, I didn't feel so bad as a person. Because for years I felt frustrated because I didn't know who I was. It's sort of like being lost, like being an egg, and there's no windows to look out, and you have nowhere to go. You can knock on every side, but you're going nowhere. It was very frustrating going through all that. With autism, most people don't understand. I like to add this so people do understand. If you don't understand it, with autism, your mind is going 100 miles per hour and your body's going 10. You have to work your heartbeat, your mind, and your thoughts all one time, and you're trying to figure what is going on. And it's very difficult for people. I'm presently working at Waste Management in Brew Road, that's in the village, or actually a township of Bergen, New York. I've actually got a lot of achievements through all the companies I work for. I have a degree in sales and customer service. I have a degree in culinary arts with actually a chef's pin. Actually, I'm quite a good cook there. I'm quite fat for it too, but I have a Class 8 tank in hazmat, and I've driven across the country border to border. I never actually driven to Canada nor Alaska. My goal is to go to Alaska. My success is through my family, because they deserve everything, and I've been through enough. I'm just glad to see they have done something with themselves. It doesn't matter if you have 2 pennies rubbed together, but you have family, you got a roof over your head, food in your stomach, and you're grateful for what you have. You can't take it with you, so sometimes you gotta just take whatever gifts are given. If that day you have a cup of milk with your coffee, that's all you have. That's your success. You don't need to make $1 million to be successful.
I know now that I would have been in an institution had I been born in 1944. But because of the efforts of many people, I and all the people you met are now able to shine.
He dreams of a day when free friends come, not just the ones who are told. He beams like the rays of the rising sun when somebody hears his soul. But that sort of thing isn't taught in school. It's never been found in the charts. And the records, the data, the terms and the rules that no one would find in a heart of a beautiful boy with a blessed smile who sees more than we'll ever know. How do you hear when a heart says yes if the deeds only manage a no? The hand of a friend is the way, connecting us, freeing the days when the words don't come and a heart goes numb. Who but a friend?